Hi. Do you ever wonder if when you say yes, it's really truly coming from your heart, or if it's really just your inner people pleaser taking you over and making you believe that you're coming from your heart? Well, you're not alone. Many people struggle with this, especially when they're just sort of waking up to the idea that they've lost themselves and they really want to try to figure out where that line is between the generosity that they actually feel and want to do with other people, want to have with other people, and this fear that maybe if they say yes, they're people pleasing, or and you don't really know where the line is, right? So I'm going to talk today. That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about that line. When are you being generous, living with your values in alignment with the way you want to live your life? And when are you people pleasing? When is that inner people pleaser coming out and convincing you that this is what you got to do? Hi, I'm Dr. Julie. I'm a psychologist and relationship coach, and I help women stop people pleasing and start living authentically. Now, people pleasing isn't all bad. It works in a lot of ways. It's how we cement relationships. We do things for other people. We take care of other people. But some of us kind of go overboard on this one and we take it too far. We do too much and we forget about ourselves and we kind of get lost in the process. So today I'm going to cover 3 ways that you can tell whether or not you're coming from your heart, from this place of generosity, or your inner people pleaser is saying yes for other reasons. I'm going to give you 3 simple questions that you can ask yourself to check in whether you're coming from a place of alignment or whether you're coming from that people-pleasing place. Have you ever said yes kind of immediately and then later you kind of came to regret it? Well, that's probably because your inner people pleaser answered for you and didn't really give you a chance to consider whether this was in your own best interest. When we're coming from a place of generosity, saying yes feels good. It comes from a genuine desire to connect and help, and you don't really expect anything in return. People pleasing, on the other hand, really comes from this place of fear. We fear rejection, we fear conflict, we fear that we're going to disappoint somebody or that they're going to look at us in a way that makes us uncomfortable. They're not going to like us for some reason, right? It ultimately isn't about what you're doing. It's about how you feel about the relationship you have with the other person and you're concerned about how they think about you and how they feel about you. So let's say you offer to bake some cookies for a party. If you genuinely enjoy baking cookies and this is feels good to you, then this is coming from a place of generosity. But if you're baking the cookies because, well, you want to impress somebody, or you maybe your friend asked you to bake cookies and you feel like, well, if I say no, she's going to think I'm being selfish. Well, then that's your inner people pleaser, and that decision is being driven by fear. So next time you say yes, I want you to pause and ask yourself this one question. Is this because I want to? Am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid not to? That small amount of self-reflection can make all the difference in your interpretation of whether you're coming from this place of generosity or you're people pleasing. Now, generosity, if you're coming from the place of generosity, really has the ability to energize us. It kind of fills us up. People pleasing, on the other hand, can be very draining. So the question here is, if you do this thing that you're considering doing, is it going to fill you up or is it going to drain you? Now, the generosity, the energy you get from generosity is going to be there even if you're inconvenienced a little bit, because what you're doing when you act from generosity is you're aligning your actions with your values. You also aren't necessarily sacrificing taking care of yourself, because that whatever you're doing might be taking care of yourself. It might be a fun thing for you. Contrast that with people pleasing. If you do the thing and it's not energizing you, it's not filling your cup, it doesn't feel meaningful, then you're likely going to feel drained, exhausted. You're going to pine for these things that you really want to be doing. Maybe go read a book or this movie you've been wanting to watch, but instead you're doing things for other people. Let's look at the example in the workplace. So if a coworker asks you to help them out with a project, why are you saying yes? If you're genuinely interested in doing the project, then when you're done with the project, you're going to feel really satisfied with yourself. But if you feel a little coerced into doing the project, you kind of feel like you have to do it to look good or to be a good team player, if you feel guilty for saying no, and that's why you said yes, then doing the project is going to be frustrating. And when you get done, it's going to just be another thing you did. It's not going to be a meaningful project that you participated in. So what I want you to do here is check in with your body. How does the thought of doing this task feel to you? Can you lean into it? Would it be something meaningful? Would it give you energy and fill you up? Or does it feel heavy? Does it feel draining? Does it feel like you pulled the plug on your energy bucket? That's a really powerful clue that you are likely straying into people pleasing rather than coming from this place of generosity. Here's a tough one. I got a tough one for you. Are you saying yes because it's easier than saying no? Sometimes we don't know how to say no, and sometimes we are really afraid of the consequences of saying no. So we're going to say yes because it's just easier. In that process, we're probably violating our own boundaries. And generosity isn't going to do that. If you're coming from a generous place, you're going to know that you can still be kind and helpful without overextending yourself. If you're people pleasing, you're going to blow right past those boundaries. You might say yes to avoid disappointing somebody, even if you don't have time or the energy, the money, whatever it is, right? Because people pleasing does not respect your boundaries. So let's say that your sister or brother asked you to watch their kids, but you've already had plans. Let's say you were going to go get a massage. Well, a lot of times when we have something like, oh, I'm going to go get a massage, we can say, well, that's not really very important, right? That's not as important as this other thing. So you might say yes, because otherwise you're going to feel guilty because, well, I can always reschedule my massage, right? But maybe you need that massage. Maybe you're somebody who really has a hard time getting through the week if you don't have that kind of body work. So if you reschedule the massage or cancel the appointment, you're not going to be able to show up authentically and energetically and generously with the kids or with the other people in your life. And you might even feel resentful later, which is not something you want to live with. So here's the key. Boundaries are not walls. They're guidelines for healthy relationships. And when you respect your own boundaries, you're teaching other people how to respect them too. And that's generosity in action. Even though we don't really consider that generous, we don't talk about generosity in those terms, it really is. Because if you're not capable of respecting your own boundaries, you can't come from that place of generosity. Now you know the signs. Here are 3 simple questions you can ask yourself to figure out if you're crossing the line between being generous and people pleasing. And the first question is, am I doing this because I want to or because I'm afraid not to? The second question is, will this fill me up or is this going to drain me? And the third question is, am I respecting my limits and needs for self-care or am I ignoring them? And if your answers truly reflect generosity, then do it. By all means, do it. If instead those answers to the questions really reflect people pleasing, they reflect coming from a place of fear, consider learning how to say no or finding another way to help that really is more in line with what you're capable of doing. Remember, your generosity might be somebody else's people pleasing and vice versa. That's because it depends on the answers, your values, and what's going on in your life at the time. When you act from a place of honesty and alignment, you're not just being generous to others, you're being generous to yourself. If this idea resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. I'm trying to get the message out there about how to stop people pleasing, and you subscribing to this channel helps tell YouTube who's going to want to watch this video. Now, before you go, I want to let you in on something. If you've ever been accused of being selfish, or you're afraid of being accused of being selfish just because you're setting a boundary or saying no to something, then I've got something for you. I'm hosting a live workshop on January 23rd. And the workshop is going to be all about how to handle being accused of being selfish with confidence and clarity. I'm going to cover why these accusations happen, how to respond without feeling guilty, and how to stay true to yourself. And the best part is, because it's live, you're going to be able to ask me questions live. I'll answer them. So check out the link in the description for more details. I'd love to see you there. Take care and have an amazing week.